I would expect in a police department or a fire department, and even the military. The hallmark of our military, the hallmark of a police department, the hallmark of the fire department depends heavily on chain of command. So if you've got a problem where you can't integrate somebody that is making this transition in an appropriate way, and let's face it, since it's fairly recent, there are better ways of doing it and there are worse ways, and now those resources are becoming available. You've got that. You should have your chain of command enforced first.
The example I was using, under Senator McEachin's bill, a delegate character used to be in the state police. Their state police trooper could decide to start expressing a different gender, and the state police would have to accommodate that, even though I believe that would affect their ability to do their job.
And I understand that, and I would love to have a one-off and just kick the subject around the two of us sometime, because I think that you would, I would promise you that I would be listening to your perspective, because I do this every day. There is a better way of doing things and a worse way of doing things. I did everything by the numbers. I did not have the restroom available to me initially, but rather than be annoying, I worked through it, and actually Home Depot, as a result of my effort, has changed the policy with regard to the restroom. I feel a loyalty to that employer. With the chain of command, you have to have the chain of command enforced first. That has to be in place. There should be no question when an order is given or you don't have a strong organization. That said, the individual, there should be the opportunity to have a meeting of the minds. Our society is evolving. This stuff is out there. We can do this. So I support this bill because it's a great start for Virginia to affirm this perspective. When everybody wins when everybody works. I've said it 1,000 times. I don't think anybody wants to write a check to somebody unemployed because they were discriminated against. It's almost not a big deal. It is a big deal. If you think about it, let's do it and get it done. And thank you so much. I appreciate you listening.
All right. Anyone else wishing to testify in favor of House Bill 747?
My name is Arthur Dewey, and I'm a new employee of the Virginia Employment Commission. Probably in the last 2 years, I became classified. I had to work for like 7 years to get a position as a P14, to get a position as classified, and I had to prove myself competent and able and fully better than anybody else there to be able to get a position. And there's no grievance. I mean, I'm not blaming openly gay, but I mean, I have a spouse and he works for the state also, and everybody at work knows I have a spouse who works for the state. And I feel I've been not able to get into position or held back because that's a common knowledge, but there's been nothing in place for me to bring any kind of grievance or any kind of support for that, even to get on full-time as a state. So I've had to work around the system to be able to get into a position. And I feel now that if I say too much, I might not even still have my position because I'm just barely past the probationary period.
Okay. What I just heard was, even though everybody knows you have a male spouse, that you managed to secure a full-time classified position.
Basically, yes.
And yet you still have this deep-seated fear that's going to...
Because there's no protections in the state.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And I just have to always constantly work 10 times harder than anybody else in the office.
I'm not being dismissive of it, but you just told us about your successes in our state government with everyone having the full knowledge that you have that lifestyle. And I just am struck by how that's sort of what we heard last week or last time when Claire was telling us how attitudes had changed in polling data. That supports that, I would think, that people knowing full well, you've still got your job and have advanced in it. So thank you for your testimony. Anyone else wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 747?
Mr. Chairman, I just, Pastor Robin Gorsline from the Plum Community Church and people of faith, I just want to say one thing. We certainly support this bill as we supported the bills that came before you before. As often happens in Richmond, congregations often have a higher proportion than the rest of the state of state employees because the proportion of state employees, the concentration here is quite high. And several of the people who have spoken are actually part of my congregation. I also have people who are currently state employees, and when I talk to them about talking about this issue in any way, they're not setting foot anywhere near it because they don't feel secure in their jobs, and they're some of the long-term employees. One who's about actually going to retire in 6 months, but she's scared to death if she says anything because this the boss she knows has made openly gay comments and so on. She wants to keep her job and retire, obviously, after 35 years of service. She doesn't feel safe to come here. To me, that's a profoundly important issue for you all to consider because you have a workforce. I mean, you know, you guys work hard. There's no two ways about that. I come down here every season and yeah, you do. You work really hard. And so do all the state, or most every state employee, and they need to be judged on the basis of whether they produce or not. And when we don't have people who are performing at their peak capacity because they are scared, that is not good use of our tax money. And that feels to me, it feels like wasteful of that because we're wasting human potential. And so I just tell you, I've got 5 or 6 employees in my congregation alone who are veteran employees and they don't feel safe. They need protection.
Thank you. Delegate Garrett.
You pastor what church?
Metropolitan Community Church of Richmond.
And do these individuals come to you for counseling? Is it fair?
Yes. And that's why I can't talk about it because I can talk about it in general terms, but I can't talk about it specifically because they come as their pastor.
Okay, yes. Anyone wishing to testify, step up to the hot spot and tell us your name and who you're with.
Hi, I'm Sharon Moran, and I work for the Virginia Commonwealth University Health System. And while my concern is that why not just change the wording to protect all people, since that's what we're really after, I would think. I've seen self-discrimination continually, and but because there are no laws protecting against such a, then that's permitted. I just don't think it should be permitted. Any conversation discriminating against anyone for any reason, in my opinion. Certainly that's my opinion. But as a taxpayer, I'm really pleased to be able to stand up here and say that, ask that that you consider this bill and the wording and pass it for people in Virginia. Thank you.
All right. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to Senate Bill 747? Come on up.
Mr. Chairman, I'm speaking in opposition. My name is Kirk Jones. I'm president of the Central Virginia chapter of the Randolph Institution, and I just wanted to confirm that we are fully in support of the bill, and there is the committee that are favorably upon Senate Bill 747.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? I think there's some people out in the hallway. Can you holler at them as well? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Chris Friend of the Family Foundation. I'm not going to reiterate the testimony from a few weeks ago, but we do oppose the legislation.
Thank you, sir. Yes,
Eddie
sir.
Yalof, Executive Director of Virginia Assembly Independent Baptist. As Chris said, I'll not reiterate what I said before, but we stand firmly against this bill.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Any members of the subcommittee have any more questions for the patron or comments on the bill?
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I move that we table Senate Bill 747.
Okay. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Which is not debatable. All those in favor of the motion to table say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, please.